Hi Comic Army, it's the Comic Vet coming to you, and I wanted to talk about a comic book that I picked up recently that I find incredibly interesting. As some of you may or may not know, I am a Spider-Man collector. I've been working on the Amazing Spider-Man from the early 60s, focusing on issue number 1 all the way to issue 100. Trying to get as many graded copies as I can, upgrading the books here and there where I can. I do happen to have a copy of issue number 1. No, I don't have a copy of Amazing Fantasy number 1, or pardon me, Amazing Fantasy 15. I don't know what I was thinking there. And, well, because, you know, I'd rather have a car than a comic book. But anyways, let's get into what I picked up recently. Like I mentioned, I am a Spider-Man collector, and I was in a antique shop recently, and there was a comic book that really caught my attention. I thought it was weird. At first I thought maybe it was a coloring book, and I asked the shopkeeper about it, and he told me what it was, and it intrigued me. He had it priced significantly higher than what I thought the value was, so I had to go home and do a little bit of homework on it, and then eventually come back and start haggling out a deal for said Spider-Man book. Well, let's just get right into it. A little bit of a backstory about this book. In 1976, on the other side of the world in Africa, particularly South Africa, there was a publisher who had got the rights to start printing Marvel comic books. However, they printed it under their own banner, not the Marvel banner, and this went on for 10-15 years. How long it actually lasted into the late 80s and early 90s, I'm not sure. Apartheid was still alive and well, sadly, at this point going on there, so I'm not sure how much of actual marketplace there was for these books, but they gave it a shot. What I happen to have here is The Amazing Spider-Man, issue number 21, published by Supercomix. Again, Supercomix. And this book was released in October, according to them, 1976. But with my homework, I found out that it wasn't released in 1976. That's just, in fact, what the copyright was that Marvel had for this part of the world. In fact, the book probably came out in 1977. And how I know that is because this story that's in this particular issue was released in North America, Canada, and the United States in March 1977. So with this cover being in October, it probably took a few months later than what it came out with. And with the March 1977 original edition, we all know that that book probably came out in either December or January. So January or December 1976 and December 1977, with a cover saying March 1977. Now, this story was originally released in North America in issue 166, and it's titled War of the Reptile Men. The cover, which I'll show you right here, was beautifully done by John Romita Sr., arguably one of the best Spider-Man artists that have ever taken on the character. The writer was Len Wein, who is also famous for creating Wolverine. The penciler was Russ Andrew, the man who did the interiors of the book, which are beautifully done. And the inks were done by Mike Esposito, who handled the Amazing Spider-Man for quite a while. Some of the characters that are in this book are Spider-Man, MJ, Flash Thompson, Harry Osborn. The villains, as you can guess by looking at the cover, are the Lizard and Stegron, the Dinosaur Man. The Dinosaur Man. And it does have a couple first appearances, however, they're not important to the Spider-Man universe or the Spider-Man mythos. It was Agent Forbes and Agent Wilson of the New York Police Department. Yeah. So, as you can tell, there is significant differences between this cover and the North American cover. But strangely, the price seems to be the same, 30 cents. However, in North America, they don't have a dollar. Pardon me, their monetary currency isn't called the dollar. It's called the rand. And so this was 30 cents of the rand. I'm not sure what the change is called in South America, so I'm just going with cents. The interesting part is that it does say 30 cents, and the copy that was released in the United States and Canada also has a cover price of 30 cents. However, if you do currency conversion, you will find out today that 30 cents in South African money, the rand, is only worth 0.026, or just under 3 cents Canadian, or 0.020 US dollars. So yeah, their comic book here cost them significantly more than what people of the 1970s would have to pay in North America. Probably to the point of this book being in the neighborhood of, I want to say 90 cents to $1, or I guess 1 rand. So it was a little bit more pricey than what kids or adults had to pay in the 70s. Now, another cool part is that there is actually no Marvel logo here at all. We have an RP logo here. We also see that this book was also available in the beautiful country of Zimbabwe at the same price point. And this particular issue, unlike the North American copy, came with a pop star poster inside. That wasn't there in North America. And of course, it does happen to give you a little bit of a selling feature: South Africans own comics. South Africa's, pardon me. Now, inside there are ads, and most are in English, but there's also some in a different language that I'm not sure what it is. If it's German or if it's some sort of dialect that is spoken in South Africa. It does say about the publisher a little bit down here that it was printed by the Republican Press out of Johannesburg. It does say that the copyright is owned by Marvel Comics, 1976, and that it's used under permission by the Republican Press company. I'll show you a little bit of the ads here. Looks like there's an ad here for space cards, or perhaps a space magazine. And like I said, English is featured here, but there's a different language here. And the book is full color going through. However, all the ads seem to be in black and white. And the ads don't seem to be pushing other comic books, they seem to be pushing magazines. Now, I know Marvel has a Western through the 60s and the 70s and into the 80s called Kid Cole Outlaw. My father did read Westerns, and I do have some of his Kid Colt Outlaw comic books that were published by Marvel. But again, there was no photo image like this that are on any of the covers that I would recognize. They were always just drawn artwork like that one. continuing through, you'll see that there are actually some ads that are kind of geared more towards adults. Again, this seems like it might be a magazine or something like a Reader's Digest kind of ad for Sister Louise. Sister Louise's own life is shadowed by a deed she bitterly regrets. Can she find forgetfulness in her dedication to her patients? Forgetfulness? Louise, on sale everywhere in 2 weeks. All the Spider-Man action in this book is actually in English, and so are some of these risque ads. Young Love. I don't remember ever seeing, ads of a half-naked man about to go in for a kiss in the Spider-Man books that I've seen from the 70s. Again, here's an ad that's entirely in a different language. I'm not sure if this is pushing a television show or a magazine, but it's the first one in this book that actually happens to be in color. And I know what everyone's been waiting for. You've been waiting to see who the pop star is that's in this particular comic book, right? Well, it seems to be like a little bit of a Rolling Stone type of review. The page itself is a magazine type of page that's here in the center of the comic book. It does have color. It talks about the band Echo and the Bunnymen, who were quite popular in the late 70s and in the 80s and into the 90s as well. It talks about John Cale. I'm sorry, but I don't know who John Cale is. Or the band Au Pairs. The poster, or the pin-up that's inside, is of the band Les Métatois, and being able to speak a tiny bit of French being Canadian, I can see that. And this is the ad itself. Or pardon me, the poster. Just a close-up of the guys in the band, and a little bit of a write-up here, which does happen to be in English. And on the final side of what would be considered the poster is, again, a little bit of a Rolling Stone record review. And here the artists that are featured would be maybe a collection. It's called Friday Night in San Francisco. And I don't know if I can pronounce this, Umbagan? It's a CBS on Records. It's done by Trevor Woodside. Or maybe that's just the writer of this article. Again, the comic book continues with the lizard battling Stegron the Dinosaur Man, with Spider-Man just kind of on looking. And again, there's another ad here for Kid Colt, but again, it seems to be in the different language. I can tell that that's the same actor that's on the front there, but sadly, I'm not recognizing what this language is. Spider-Man does eventually show up and join the battle. And as you can see, these are very bright colors. So it's not like they cheaped out in printing the comic action itself. The book does seem to be the full amount of pages that would be in a normal comic book, 32 pages. It does have, again, black and white ads in a different language. But again, like, you can tell there's apartheid is happening here. There's like no black people, no one of color. Everyone just seems to be just normal white people. And they do, I guess, talk about Christmas, because the final page of this Spider-Man book is Spider-Man web swinging over a Christmas tree and taking part in a winter timeline in New York City. I can tell right away that this is Rockefeller Center. and he's going over the big Christmas tree that's there. Again, there's color ads on the inside back cover, and on the back cover it talks about, again, space and Earth, and I guess they're kind of plugging toys here, and it talks about buy the envelopes separately or a box containing a complete collection at your cafe. Now, like I said, I did end up negotiating a much better price from what the dealer was asking. He was asking $100 Canadian, which is approximately only $3 American in today's society. No, I'm joking. It's more like $78 or $79 American. But I hammered him way down from his $100 Canadian asking price, and I got it for a real good deal. In my own perspective, he kind of begrudgingly gave it up because I feel like he's been sitting on this book for a while. And my goal is to actually have it cleaned and pressed and actually submitted to CGC. I'll either keep it, or it'll have to be something that I would consider trading for something that I would need in my ASM collection, basically from 1 to 100, somewhere around there, or a key. But I understand that this book is very much a niche market, and not everyone really cares about international copies of comic books, like the German books or Mexican books, and or the UK editions of things that were released in both Canada and the United States. But it was just something that I saw that kind of stayed with me for a while, thinking about it and doing a little bit of homework, and seeing that in Series 1 of ASM, when it was released under the supercomix banner, that it was released only for 30 editions over a span of 2 years. But I do know that there are some Avengers books out there that were released that way, the Incredible Hulk, all the ones that are basically still popular today, but that were mainstays in the late 70s. So anyways, I'm glad that I picked it up, and again, I'll thank everyone for staying with me and paying attention to my video here. Again, this is the cover, and if you haven't already subscribed, I'm going to ask you to please consider hitting that subscribe button, hit the like button. Feel free to leave a comment. I will always respond to everyone's comments like I normally do, and I'm appreciative of your time and for checking this video out. Well, Comic Army, I'll see you soon on New Comic Book Day with my next video. Until then, Comic Vet out.